you all for being here. My name is Luis, and I want to thank GPS Directions for bringing us to the right place.
Sorry.
That's okay. I had the same problem. I'm glad you're all here. I want to thank my friend Kay Lowell for inviting me to do this talk with you all. It's a privilege, it's a gift. I want to thank my dear friend Shannon Kelly for bringing me over and for putting up with me. And I named this talk Loving the Divine Within, because if you are anything like me, if anybody treated you the way you treat yourself sometimes, chances are you will be pressing charges against yourself. And it's always a good reminder how to bring love and kindness and compassion to our own lives. We are very quick to offer our compassion and our love to others, and a lot of us stare ourselves in the mirror and we call ourselves horrible names. That's why I decided to do this talk. I'd like to open my talk with a couple of poems from two of my favorite mystics. First one being Meister Eckhart. He wrote this beautiful poem called When I Was the Forest. When I was the stream, when I was the forest, when I was still in the field, when I was every hoof, foot, fin and wing, when I was the sky itself. No one ever asked me, did I ever had a purpose? No one ever wondered, was there anything I might need? For there was nothing I could not love. It was when I left all we once were that the agony began. The fear and question came, and I wept. I wept. And tears I had never known before. So I returned to the river. I returned to the mountains. I asked for their hand in marriage again. I begged. I begged to wed every object and creature. And when they accepted, God was ever present in my arms. And He did not say, "Where have you been?" For then I knew my soul, every soul, has always held Him. Next one is from our dear Rumi. The way wings should. What will our children do in the morning? Will they wake with their hearts wanting to play? The way wings should. Will they have dreamed the neat flights and gathered the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful charms of the earth, so that their power and beauty does not make us forget our own? I know all the ways of the heart, how He wants to be alive. Love so needs to love that it will endure most anything, even abuse, just to flicker for a moment. But the sky's mouth is kind. Its song will never hurt you, for I sing those words. What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly? It is my belief that each and every single one of us, within our most precious essence, have a diamond. A diamond that shines in many facets. And it is my responsibility towards myself and towards my divine self to love every single one of those facets. How can I embrace the lights if I cannot recognize the darkness within? And how can I reject the dark within if I have known no light? There is a story of an old man, a desert father, that went into the mountains and lived in the mountains for many years, just worshiping God, worshiping the mystical Christ. And his main purpose in life was to love Christ, the unknown, the unseen. And one day in his meditation, he heard the voice of love telling him, "Leave now. Leave now and go be among your kind." And so we did. He came down and became one of us. Got married, had an affair, got drunk, got sober, got drunk again, stole, gave back, lied, did all the things that some of us have done. But within that man, there was always a willingness to be vulnerable and to be transparent. And God was absolutely in love with this guy, because he recognized the beauty in the humanness of this man. So many years later, God decided to pay a visit to this man, Father Amos. So he goes and knocks on the door of Father Amos, and Father Amos opens the door and immediately bows his head and begins crying, saying, "Father, Father, what do I deserve? Such beautiful gift, your presence in my humble house. Please come in, come in." And he asked God to sit in his favorite and only chair. And he sat on the floor, and he could not bring himself to look into the beauty of God. He felt he was not worth it. And God told him, "Why do you hide yourself? Why do you hide your face from me? Oh, Father, I'm such a sinner. How can you love me?" And God told him, "I love you because I know who you are, not because of what you think you are. And I'm here to ask you a favor." "What is that, Lord? And how can you ask a favor of such a sinner like me?" "Well, you have lived your life as I asked you to. You have been willing to be transparent, to be vulnerable, to love, to repair the harms that you have caused to your brothers and sisters. So I'm here to ask you, if I am to hide myself, where should I hide myself, that men like you continue to seek me, and in the seeking continue to find me? Should I hide myself in the bottom of the oceans? Should I hide myself in mountain tops, in the winds of the west, winds of the west? Where should I hide myself, my good man? That men like you continue to seek me, and in the seeking continue to find me." And Father Amos bowed his head, and with a smile he looked for the first time in the light of God and said, "Father, consider hiding yourself in our hearts." If you are here today, there is a recognition within yourself about your own beauty, about your own divinity. Regardless what this fine piece of machinery tells you, if you have the courage for a moment to descend down into your heart center and be willing for a moment to suspend judgment of yourself and others, you'll be embraced by a divine love that no one, no priest, no rabbi, no friend, no family member can ever touch. It's such beauty, such love, that there is no real diamond in the world, regardless how big it is, that is as precious as that is. It is my belief that once we get called to wake up into who we are asked to wake up to the divinity within ourselves. Some of us have found that divinity in a rosebud. Some of us have found that divinity in churches. Most of us find that divinity through the gift of desperation. Regardless of how we find that divinity, I believe that once we find it, we have two choices. First one is that we embrace it and we begin to cultivate that divine within, that self-love. And then begin sharing it. And turn it into the giving. It is only when we begin to share the love that we have within and begin giving that we begin to realize stronger and stronger the beauty that exists inside of us. The other choice is to blot it out, to forget that we had that or those experiences, and to live an empty life, knowing that we have tasted love, yet we refuse to acknowledge it, and we make everybody else around us miserable and guilty for our own suffering. I am responsible for my own happiness. I am responsible to become free, to recognize the Christ within, the Buddha within, the Great Spirit within. And then I am responsible to pass it on to you. Not through my words, as much as through my actions, through my acts. It's amazing how we all love to be treated nicely and lovingly. We love that. And now it's so easy to forget to treat others with love and kindness. We get so wrapped up in our world that we even forget to treat ourselves kindly and lovingly. I wonder if, as any of us think for a moment, what would I be if I became Christ-like today? What would happen to me if I chose to be and act lovingly, beginning with myself, and then give unto others? Who would my life be? Who would my life be at the end of the day? Because there is a wonderful angel, great friend, that is the angel of death. He is so loving and so kind, so compassionate. He is so generous that he's constantly reminding us to be loving towards ourselves and towards others. Because He's always right there, waiting for that moment when it's time to move on, to take us by the hand and say, I'll show you the path now. Have you loved enough? Have I loved enough? One of the questions I love to ask my clients is, what time are you going to die? I had this millionaire walk into my office the other day. Did you hear the millionaire? And he says, I'm going to kill myself. I said, goody goody, how are you going to do it? He said, I'm going to blow my brains out. I said, oh, that's the sissy way to do it. And I asked him, really? What is missing in your life? Nobody loves me, he says. I said, really? I love you. And I asked him, if you're going to kill yourself, how do you want to live this place? Living suffering, pain behind? Or do you want to leave this place with a legacy of love? We have a choice. I told him, you have a daughter, you have a wife. Is that the kind thing to do? He's still alive, still laughing. Because I told him it was the sissy way to die. I told him that the right way to die was to stick a big old knife in his belt and do like the Japanese do it. You know, that was the right way to do it. Like a man. He started laughing. Still laughing. God is in the giving. Is in the sharing. God is in the recognizing that there is beauty within us that needs to be shared. How do I want to go from this moment forward? And I'm going to stay focused in the problem, which is this, that lies to me. Or am I going to focus in the solution? That is love. That is here, where God lives. And if so, what kind of acts of love am I willing to do today? One of the great gifts that the Buddha gave us was the ability to gain insight our beauty by listening to silence. You all know, if you don't know the story of the Buddha, I'll just give you a little summary. He was this rich, spoiled brat kid that had everything that he wanted, but he had a calling within, you see? And that's where I believe each one of us has that diamond that might be in the rough still, that is getting to be faceted. He had a calling within. He knew that something somehow was bigger than the life that he lived. And he bribed his servant to take him out there and to show him the real world. And he saw the real world and he came back home and he said, Mom and Dad, what's going on? Have you guys noticed what's going on out there? There's a whole bunch of suffering out there. I want to go out there and do something for those folks. Mom and Dad said, oh no, you're not. You're staying here. And he said, watch me. And he left. Now I'd love to tell you that he got out there and everything was peachy cream. It wasn't. He joined a couple of dudes and he studied several ways of practice and he wasn't happy with it. And he got into a point that he was so desperate that he actually stole from a young lady. He stole some rice because he was starving. And he sat down for what is called to be said 40 days. under that Bodhi tree, and he came to recognize what is called nirvana. Self-love. Loving the divine. Amazingly enough, years later, this hippie with long hair and beard showed up and started talking about love your neighbor as yourself. He got called to go into the desert for 40 days. And he came out of there and he said that the kingdom of heaven is within. Jesus Christ. And they recognized the love within. There is a beautiful calling in each one of us that we can begin today to nourish that. It's precious, untouchable. It's divine, it's so very beautiful. We can get there. We can acknowledge it by glancing in the mirror, looking into the windows of our soul and saying, do you know that I love you? And I am so sorry that I have forgotten about you. I'll make you a promise that from this moment on, I will love you, nourish you, embrace you, that I may love, embrace and nourish my brother. Or we can sit down away from the world for a few minutes and focus on the breath of life that so lovingly has been given to us, and swim in that vastness of love that is within, and be that we were created to be. Love. And once we fall short, when we hear those lies about ourselves, no one loves you. You're too skinny, you're too fat, you're too this, you're too that, you're too the other. We can say, cancel. I love and I respect myself. I'm not going to listen to that lie. I love and I respect myself too. And I believe that every time we do that, every time we do that act of kind love, God smiles. Goddess smiles. The universe smiles. I believe that if all of us took a moment to learn to love ourselves, stay away from judgment, we wouldn't have the suffering that we have in this world. I've learned that hurt people hurt people. I heard that, and I learned that loving people love people. We have beautiful choices. Are we willing to choose love today? To recognize that God has hidden Himself in each one of us, in our hearts. And that if I continue to seek this divine essence being within, I continue to feel that assuredness that all is well, as it is, right here, right now. And rejoice in that. I must say yes. to all that is, I will say yes. I chose two poems from Listening to Silence, the second book of mine, which, by the way, folks, all the procedures of this book go to St. Francis of Assisi Recovery House. St. Francis of Assisi Recovery House is a transitional living for men with drug and alcohol problems in Kerrville, from which I am director, spiritual director. Every cent in this book goes to help them, to take them on spiritual trips, if they cannot afford to stay there, to pay for at least the first month rent while they're there. So I don't make any profit out of these books. So. The first poem is called Coming Home. I touched the garment that healed me. I was covered by the veil of light, and the veil of darkness vanished. I dance, I swirl, I cry and laugh. The Almighty is leading me home. I have begun to recognize my own self. The second one is Becoming Love. By the way, I'm going to tell you a little story about this poem. Since I was a child, I had this vision. And this vision is that I am laying on the floor, under a tree, in someone's lap. And it is a man. I cannot see his face. I know that he has long hair. And this man caresses my hair. And there is a scent of olive oil in the air. Since I was a little kid. My mom passed away when I was 7. And I remember before she passed, I remember telling her and asking her what this was. To this day, this vision is still with me, and is one of the visions that brings a lot of peace of mind and healing into my life. So I wrote this poem, Becoming Love. That summer afternoon, I laid my head on your lap under that olive tree. There, I surrendered to becoming the stone on which you chiseled me to your likeness. There, I surrendered to becoming the clay to which you mold me to your essence. There, I surrendered to becoming the child in which your love has your existence. And from your bosom, I tasted the unasymical life, the carrying breeze of your breath as my own, the touch that let me know I am enough. In fact, in you, I became everything. That is love. God bless you. Thank you, my dear friends. Appreciate you. Love you. God bless you. Stay safe.